I was one of the persons who was very skeptical towards VR. I heard about it, watched some videos, but here was my thought process. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for innovations that potentially take gamers out of their comfort zones, as life has taught me. These uncomfortable comfort zones are the mothers of many fuck-ups.
You and I are on the same side, by the way.
My thoughts on VR were how much of a gimmick it seemed to be. That and how impractical and counterintuitive it seemed. I've been interacting with video games since the 80s. Who knows, maybe the 70s, and I just don't remember. But one of the many things this wealth of experience taught me was, gamers are either inherently lazy or simply play video games to have some lazy time. Meaning, I didn't see gamers, including myself, putting on a headset and getting real physical when playing a game. I know the Wii and Kinect and a few others started bringing this paradigm shift in gaming, but I strongly believe, just like watching a movie or reading a novel, we do these things to relax and unwind, not to break a sweat and develop muscles. And even active persons like myself, who's practiced several martial arts forms since 1989 and lifts weights religiously, I still rather not be ducking, jumping and flailing around while playing a video game. I will do this for a bit with the Kinect or Wii, even using the Move peripherals on the PS3, but only for a bit. Call me lazy, but when it comes to video games or even Netflix and Prime Video, I take these moments as relaxing time.
Affirmative.
I won't say chill, as chilling really seems like another word for idle. Yes, I do in fact believe chilling is for children, and even then they should be taught better.
Roger that.
Back on track though, initially I believed VR was just another fad. But here's the thing, and most people don't tell you this, but VR isn't something you should watch on YouTube. It isn't even something you can be told about with any inkling of accuracy. You must by necessity experience it for yourself. Standing on the sidelines, hearing, watching or reading about VR is not even close to experiencing it firsthand. When you do end up playing VR for any appreciable amount of time, two things will happen. Well, maybe more than two, but here's what I'm talking about. You will either conclude VR is crap, maybe because it's too immersive and said immersion was too much for you, or it made you nauseous. Maybe it hurt your eyes. Maybe it gave you a headache. Maybe having that huge chunk of plastic on your face was simply damn uncomfortable. Maybe it's like I said earlier, it takes too much work to set it up, too much work for you to get the most out of it. We're used to, as gamers, to just turn on the TV, turn the console on, and we're ready to go. Not taking into consideration that TVs of today and even consoles take much longer to start up than yesteryear, including turning your Master Race PCs on. Yeah, turning on an old CRT and an Atari 2600 or NES back in the days was a quicker startup process. But that aside, as we all know, regardless of power-up times, we're much better off today, and this is coming from a retro gamer.
We always wondered what the future would hold.
But yeah, it feels like a production getting a VR game started. It always does. Today, I'm basing this review on the PSVR. I know the Quest is like the simplest thing to get going, that's another story for another time, but even some PC setups require sensors and all kinds of other shit just to get started. On the PSVR, there are no analog sticks. So you end up either playing games like, let's say, Immortal Legacy, battling the controls instead of the actual game. It's either that or go buy a 3D rudder, and that in itself creates an inconvenience all on its own. And this is what I'm talking about. It's not exactly pick up and play.
It's not looking good, is it?
Then there's the learning/development process. Because VR is relatively new technology, not only are the devs learning as they go along through a seemingly never-ending trial and error process, but we as early adopters are along for the ride. So we end up being willing participants in this ongoing experiment. We have to watch as devs make shit up, figure out what does and does not work, like the aforementioned Immortal Legacy.
How far up do those legs
Let
go?
me go!
We'll take care of you.
This brings me to another point. VR supporters seem really delusional. They're like political or religious supporters. They dive deep in their own bullshit and they're happy drowning in it. You can't tell them shit. If you do, you're a hater who should be silenced.
You and I are on the same side, by the way.
I watch just about all of them on YouTube. And here's a constant, all VR supporters, and remember, I'm narrowing this video down to PSVR, as different VR headsets have different ups and downs. Like the Labo, it doesn't even have a way to strap it onto your head. Nintendo and their experimental bullshit. Anyway, we're talking about PSVR, and here's a constant with all its supporters. They all try real hard to cast a blind eye to its flaws. If a game has shitty or subpar graphics due to the present limitations, they'll say the game looks good, or even amazing. Immortal Legacy again comes to mind, and yes, I'm using a PS4 Pro.
Unfucking believable!
But come on, based on what VR is and how limited it is presently, I don't expect photorealistic games. But let's just keep it real here for persons looking to us content creators for guidance and honesty. The visuals aren't as great as these reviewers make them sound. I think these YouTubers are speaking from a place of positive expectations and not one of complete honesty grounded in reality. Like I said, like religious and political zealots.
This new guy? I'm not feeling it. Again? Just don't be surprised if we have to make a change.
I get where they're coming from though, because here's the thing. So far this review sounds like a man pissed and disappointed with VR gaming, but I'm not. I fully support VR gaming and eat many, not all, but many of my words going in. I simply wanted to get the shit I dislike about VR out of the way, while providing much needed clarity and transparency to all those still on the fence. I love VR gaming. I love gaming in general, but that's not going to stop me from calling a spade a fucking spade. VR, as sweet as it is, has a far way to go.
It's spot on!
Well, here's some of the good things about VR, and why I think people are so lenient, for lack of a better word, towards this innovation. VR as it stands is very similar to the Nintendo Switch. Now let me explain. Many compromises had to be made for both to become a reality. But even with those compromises, pros outweighs the cons. You ever noticed, and this question isn't being directed at the people who either dislike or couldn't give a rat's ass about the Switch, but have you ever noticed how the Switch breathes new life into games we either wouldn't care for on a regular day or games we forgot about? Example, Skyrim. That game has been about for a decade or more, but you make it portable and all of a sudden it's like a new game. You can release free-to-play games like Modern Combat on the Switch, and all of a sudden it's like adding new gum to gum that's already lost its flavor. New life.
More incoming!
Games that we no longer cared about feels fresh because it's on a truly portable console, not just some fucking phone or tablet.
You're out of your mind.
Same goes for VR. To experience a game like Resident Evil 7 in VR not only allows players who have been through it already to experience it in a whole new way, but players who missed the boat, like myself, have seen more reasons to check it out.
What's that? Nothing.
Look at Borderlands 2. That game has been on my pile of shame for years, but now I get to experience it in VR. I don't think about how dated it is, because it literally feels like a completely new game.
Many thanks, friend of friends. Onward!
Developers have coined this term VR experience for those games that either aren't really games or have very limited interaction options. I disagree with that misleading term, however. I believe all VR games should be labeled experiences, not just because that's what they obviously are, but they're all so fresh and new and amazing in their own rights. Calling all VR games, even some of the shitty ones, an experience would be totally valid. VR, unlike the Kinect and the Wii, is not a gimmick. It is simply work in progress. Similar to the evolution of video games in general. I mean, I guess I could say the same thing for the Kinect and the Wii. I guess they weren't really gimmicks either, but they were definitely treated as such. I mean, look at the shit we were playing decades ago. If gamers and devs alike gave up during this era, we'd either still be playing shit like this today, or nothing at all. Or maybe Monopoly and checkers. So while this video may come off like some VR hit piece, rest assured it is not. VR gaming makes sense. It is an evolution in gaming, just like the Wii motion controls, just like the Kinect, which aside from myself, everyone and their mom seem to hate. I love the Kinect, not because I thought it was perfect, as obviously not one single man-made creation has been to this day, but I loved it because it's taking us out of our comfort zones for the sake of innovation. Great things could come from the Kinect. Great things have come from the gimmicky ass Wii. Think about it, those same controls we're using for PSVR were originally PS3's knockoff of the Wiimote and nunchucks. So if money wasn't everything to these companies, imagine what the Kinect could have been. Better yet, fuck what you can imagine. What about things we can't imagine? Back in 1927 was when the first TV was invented. I bet decades before that, not one unimaginative motherfucker would have thought that shit possible.
You fucker.
No, seriously, just think about it. One of the major Achilles heels of the PSVR are the controllers. Like I said, the Move controllers don't even have thumbsticks. So imagine VR using the Kinect. You would not need a 3D order. You would not need thumbsticks. Similar to some of these PC VR sets, you'd move your fingers and your fingers would move in the game. It would track your motion instead of just tracking the two controllers and the headset and the 3D order.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
So yeah, I'm all for technological advancements. Just like a gun, can be used for good, can be used for bad.
Right.
So, final verdict, PSVR is an amazing innovation with a whole lot of potential. I'd hate to know that in order to play VR, I'd have to own a powerhouse PC or some garbage like Nintendo Labo or Google Cardboard. Now I know the Quest is great and now on my list of must-haves, but it too has its drawbacks. So I'm all for PSVR, and flaws and all, ups and downs, I'll be sticking with it till the day it's as much an improvement over today's experience as the Xbox One X is in comparison to the first PlayStation.
Awesome! Adventure awaits!
As with all my recent reviews, no scores, no meters, no nonsense. I review, you decide. If you like my content, please leave a like, a sub, a comment, and hit that notification bell. If I rubbed you the wrong way with my don't give a fuck attitude, then please, by all means, unsubscribe, dislike, and while you're at it, leave a nasty comment so the world can be fully aware of your disapproval. Either way, thanks for watching, and thanks for playing. Our game is never over.
I mean, fuck this show.